Hello, welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. Today I was thinking about over 50 years ago when I was a kid. I used to read these books called The Hardy Boys, a collection of various books. It was about some fictional teenage boys, Frank and Joe Hardy. They solved mysteries in the fictional coastal city of Bayport. They're created in 1927 by Edward Stratemeyer. Books were penned by various ghostwriters, usually under the name Franklin W. Dixon. I remember the first one of their books was The Tower Treasure. So somebody's actually, I guess, selling maybe the entire series of the books on eBay for $361.77. Kind of interesting. Another one person has various ones, and you can choose one for $3.49 a piece. In the story, their dad was a detective for the police department, and a lot of times the boys would solve the cases before their dad did. And also, besides their mother, they also lived in their house with their dad's sister, Aunt Gertrude. This is from 1959, 1973. The first 38 books were extensively revised to remove social and ethnic stereotypes, modernize content, and shorten the books. So it's interesting, I guess, the earlier versions were longer. And through the changes, the characters always remain popular. Several new volumes are published each year, and the adventures have been translated into over 25 languages. It says that the brothers attend high school and are in the same grade, but school is rarely ever mentioned in books and never hinders their solving of mysteries. In older stories, the boys' mysteries are often linked to their father's confidential cases. He sometimes requests their assistance, while at other times they stumble upon relevant victims and incidents. Boys are also assisted in solving the mysteries by their friends Chet Morton, Phil Cohen, Bill Hooper, Jerry Gilroy, Tony Prito, and less frequently by their platonic girlfriends Callie Shaw and Iola Morton, Chet's sister. A lot of times the boys are in danger too while they're doing it, but they never lose their nerve. They're Hardy Boys, luckier and more clever than anyone around them. That's what I'm quoting. And it says more than 115,000 books have been sold. Their series was so successful that Stratemeyer created Nancy Drew as a female counterpart to the Hardys. And it says the Hardy Boys have gone through many permutations over the years. 1959, the books were extensively revised, and some commentaries find that the Hardys' characters changed in the process. That's interesting. Would be interesting to get a hold of an original Hardy Boys book, maybe the same story, and compare it to another. It being written 50 years later, just to see what the difference is and how much shorter of a book it became. It is the longest running series of books to feature the Hardy Boys as the Hardy Boys Mystery Stories, sometimes called the Hardy Boys Mysteries. The series ran from 1927 to 2005 and comprised of 190 volumes, although some consider only the first 58 volumes of this series to be part of the Hardy Boys. I do remember too, there was a couple of TV shows. There was a cartoon about the Hardy Boys, and then later there was a show, I think it was from 1977, 1979. It ran on Sunday nights, and it's called the Hardy Boys Nancy Drew Mysteries. I think each week they rotated between a Hardy Boys show and a Nancy Drew show. And That's what I was able to find out on the Hardy Boys just by looking at stuff on the internet, and they had comic book versions of it too, I see. And like I said, I'm looking for ideas on shows to do in the future, shows about preserving history, especially obscure aspects of history. That being said, like, subscribe, share as always. Thanks for watching.